Draxnil's eyes glowed with cold anger. Then we keep destroying. Their colonies, their stations, their 6 weeks passed faster than anyone expected. Humanity used every moment to prepare. Factories worked around the clock producing ammunition and ship parts. Military training accelerated. Civilians volunteered for defense duties. The Olympics happened as planned. A brief moment of normalcy before the storm. Now the storm had arrived. 3,000 Valorian warships appeared at the edge of the solar system. They came out of faster-than-light travel in perfect formation, a wall of ships that stretched across space. It was the largest military force ever assembled by the Dominion. Emperor Draxnil himself commanded from his flagship, a massive vessel twice the size of any other ship in the fleet. On Earth, alarms sounded across every military installation. Commander Dong Hyun stood in the main operations center, watching the display as red dots multiplied across the screen. 3,000 confirmed, Lieutenant Subin reported. Her voice was steady, but her hands shook slightly. They're holding position just outside Mars orbit. Admiral Tae-sung, who had been brought back from retirement to coordinate Earth's defense, stood beside Dong Hyun. They're waiting for us to react, probably expecting us to surrender. Should we try to communicate? Subin asked. They won't listen, Dong Hyun said. Dr. Han's intercepts made that clear. The Emperor wants total victory. He's not interested in talking. Tae-sung pulled up fleet positions. We have 340 ships. We've positioned them in defensive groups throughout the system. The main battle group is here, protecting Earth. Captain Lee's group is defending Mars. Lieutenant Yuna's interceptor wings are scattered across the asteroid belt. 340 against 3,000, Dong Hyun said quietly. We need a miracle. We need a plan, Tae-sung corrected. Get me Captain Lee and all group commanders on a conference call, and someone tell President Jinwoo that we're about to be very busy. Captain Lee Jae-hoon was aboard his flagship near Mars when the call came through. His crew had been on high alert for days waiting for the Valorian arrival. Now it had happened, and the reality was sobering. 3,000 ships. He had fought 47 at New Seoul, and that had been difficult. This was impossible odds. Captain Admiral Tae-sung is on the line, Lieutenant Park Sang-woo said. Lee activated the communication. Tae-sung's face appeared on screen along with dozens of other commanders. All right, everyone listen carefully, Tae-sung said. We're outnumbered 10-1. Standard tactics won't work, so we're not using standard tactics. Captain Lee, tell them what we discussed. Lee pulled up a tactical display. The Valorians fight in large formations. They expect set-piece battles where everyone lines up and shoots. We're not going to give them that. Instead, we're going to spread out and attack from multiple directions. Hit and run, ambush, guerrilla warfare in space. Another commander spoke up. Admiral, that's not how space combat works. We need concentrated firepower. That's how traditional space combat works, Tae-sung replied. But traditional combat assumes roughly equal forces. We don't have equal forces. We have desperation and creativity. We use that. Captain Yoon Da-yoon, now commanding her own battle group, added, We've also prepared surprises. Tell them about the civilian ships. Lee nodded. We've armed civilian vessels. Cargo haulers, mining ships, passenger transports. Nothing fancy, just basic weapons. They won't stand up in a real fight, but the Valorians don't know that. We'll use them to confuse enemy sensors and make our fleet look bigger than it is. We're sending civilians into battle? Someone asked, shocked. The civilians volunteered, Dong Hyun said, and they'll stay back from the main fighting. They're bait and distraction, not frontline forces. Engineer Wan Taemin was listening to the briefing from the bridge of his garbage hauler, the Sunrise. He had volunteered along with 50 other civilian ship captains. They had welded railguns and missile pods to their ships. It looked ridiculous. But Taemin didn't care. This was his home. If the Valorians wanted it, they'd have to go through everyone, including garbage haulers. This is insane, his co-pilot muttered. We're going to die. Maybe, Taemin agreed. But we're going to die anyway if the Valorians win. At least this way we fight back. On the Valorian flagship, Emperor Draxnil studied the human fleet positions. His tactical officer was pointing out the deployment. Your Majesty, the humans have 340 warships scattered throughout their system. They appear to be using a dispersed defense strategy. Draxnil's face showed contempt. Dispersed? They split their forces? That's foolish. We'll destroy them piece by piece. Lord Kelmar, standing nearby, looked uncertain. Your Majesty, at New Seoul the humans showed unusual tactical flexibility. Perhaps we should be cautious. Cautious? Draxnil turned to face his advisor. Kelmar, I have 3,000 ships. They have 300. What do I have to be cautious about? We will advance in full force and crush them. As you command, Your Majesty. The Emperor opened a channel to all ships. Warriors of the Dominion, today we restore our honor. Today we show the galaxy that no species can defy us. Advance, destroy all human military forces. Show no mercy. 3,000 ships began moving toward Earth. Admiral Tae-sung watched them come. Here we go. All groups execute Plan Delta 7. Stay mobile. Don't let them pin you down. The human fleet scattered. Instead of meeting the Valorians head-on, they split into dozens of small groups. Some retreated toward Earth, others moved to the sides. A few accelerated toward the enemy fleet, then veered away at the last moment. The Valorian fleet tried to maintain formation while pursuing multiple targets. It was like trying to herd cats. Every time they focused on one human group, 2 more attacked from different angles. Captain Lee led the first serious attack. His group of 20 ships accelerated toward the Valorian left flank, firing railguns at maximum range. The Valorian shields were still useless against kinetic weapons. A dozen Valorian ships took damage before they could respond. Then Lee's ships activated emergency thrusters and scattered. The Valorian return fire hit empty space. That's how we do it, Lee said to his crew. Hit hard, hit fast, then get away before they can respond. All across the solar system, human groups were using the same tactic. Attack, damage a few ships, run away. The Valorians were powerful, but they couldn't hit what they couldn't catch. Lieutenant Yuna led her interceptor squadrons against Valorian fighters. She had spent weeks teaching other pilots her spiral defensive pattern. Now hundreds of human interceptors moved through space in coordinated formations. The Valorian fighters still flew as individuals. They were brave and skilled, but they fought alone. Every time they engaged a human squadron, they found themselves outnumbered locally even though they had superior numbers overall. The humans concentrated force at the point of contact while staying dispersed everywhere else. Blue Squadron, stay together, Yuna called out. Her hands moved confidently over the controls now. She wasn't the nervous young pilot from New Seoul anymore. She had trained dozens of other pilots. She had become an expert. Green Squadron, swing around and hit them from behind. Red Squadron, cover our approach. The Valorian fighters couldn't adapt. They tried to engage, but the human squadrons were too coordinated. In 20 minutes of fighting, Yuna's groups destroyed over 100 enemy fighters while losing only 15 of their own. But despite these successes, the math was still against humanity. 3,000 ships was too many. Slowly, steadily, the Valorian fleet pushed toward Earth. Human groups retreated, fighting defensive battles. Ships were lost. Casualties mounted. Then the civilian ships arrived. Engineer Taemin and his squadron of armed civilian vessels came charging out of the asteroid belt. They looked like a proper military force on sensors. 50 ships in loose formation, weapons powered up. The Valorians diverted 200 ships to intercept them. Captain? Taemin's co-pilot said. They're sending a lot of ships at us. That's the idea, Taemin replied. Keep flying toward them. Wait for it. The Valorian ships closed in, preparing to fire. They were expecting human warships with strong shields and heavy weapons. Now, Taemin shouted. All ships emergency turn, full thrusters. The civilian ships scattered in every direction. They weren't military vessels. They could turn faster, accelerate harder. The Valorian ships tried to track them, but couldn't adjust quickly enough. And while 200 Valorian ships were chasing garbage haulers, Captain Dayun's battle group hit the Valorian main formation from behind. Her ships launched a massive missile barrage. Hundreds of missiles slammed into the rear Valorian vessels, destroying or crippling dozens of them. Emperor Draxnil watched in fury as his carefully planned assault turned into chaos. The humans were everywhere and nowhere. They wouldn't stand and fight properly. They just kept hitting and running. Order all ships to tighten formation, he commanded. We maintain cohesion. We advance on Earth directly. Ignore the small attacks. Your Majesty, we're taking continuous damage from these raids. Acceptable losses. We still outnumber them greatly. Continue the advance. The Valorian fleet pushed forward, but it was bleeding. Every minute, more ships took damage. The humans were like insects, stinging constantly. No single attack was devastating. But together, they were wearing down the mighty flu. The news spread across the Valorian dominion like wildfire. A primitive species had defeated an imperial fleet. It seemed impossible. Many Valorians refused to believe it, but those who had seen the battle recordings knew the truth. On a dozen conquered worlds, people watched the news with careful attention. These were species that had surrendered to the Dominion years or centuries ago. They served the Empire because they had no choice. But now they saw something different. They saw hope. In a hidden meeting room on the planet Thalnari, 3 representatives from different species gathered. They kept their voices low, even though they were in a secure location. Speaking against the Dominion was dangerous. "Did you see the battle footage?" asked Kree, a Thalnari scientist. His species were small and thin, with large eyes and delicate hands. They had surrendered to the Valorians 50 years ago. "I saw it," replied Mex, a Zitharan engineer. "Her people were stocky and strong, built for heavy gravity worlds. They had fought the Dominion once and lost badly. That was 100 years ago. The humans didn't just survive. They won." The third person, a Velic trader named Sorn, moved his tentacles in a gesture of consideration. "We need to contact them. If the humans are strong enough to resist the Dominion, perhaps an alliance is possible." "That's dangerous," Kree said. "If the Valorians find out we're talking to the humans, they'll destroy our worlds." "They might destroy us anyway," Mex replied. "The Emperor is mobilizing 3 full fleets, 3,000 ships. That's more firepower than has been assembled in centuries. If he crushes the humans, he'll be unstoppable. His power will be absolute. Any chance of freedom for conquered species will die." Sorn's tentacles twitched. "Then we must warn the humans. They need to know what's coming. How? We can't send a message without the Valorians intercepting it." "There are ways," Sorn said. "Traders move between systems. We can pass information quietly. It will take time, but it can be done." The 3 looked at each other. They were taking an enormous risk. But sometimes risks were necessary. On Earth, life continued with surprising normalcy. The media covered the Battle of New Sol constantly, but most people weren't panicking. Humanity had a strange relationship with danger. They acknowledged it, prepared for it, but didn't let it stop their lives. The Solar System Olympics were scheduled for next month. Athletes from Mars, Europa, Titan, and dozens of other colonies were training. When reporters asked if the Olympics would be canceled due to the alien threat, the Olympic Committee looked confused. "Why would we cancel?" the committee president asked. "The Olympics have never been canceled for war. We didn't cancel them during the Resource Wars. We didn't cancel them during the Mars Rebellion. We're not canceling them now." President Jinwoo used the Olympics as a symbol. "We're not going to let fear control our lives," he said in a speech. "The Valorians think they can make us surrender by threatening us. But humanity doesn't work that way. We'll defend ourselves if we must, but we won't stop being who we are. The Olympics will happen. Life will continue. That's our answer to anyone who tries to intimidate us." The speech was popular. People appreciated the defiance. But behind the scenes, the government was working frantically. Commander Dong-hyun's days had become endless. He slept 4 hours a night if he was lucky. The rest of the time he was coordinating ship movements, supply lines, training schedules, and 100 other details. "Commander, we have a problem," Lieutenant Subin said, carrying another stack of reports. "We're running low on railgun ammunition. Production can't keep up with demand." Dong-hyun rubbed his tired eyes. "How bad?" "At current consumption rates, we'll run out in 3 months. If we get into another major battle, maybe sooner. Increase production. Double shifts at all manufacturing facilities." "Sir, we're already at maximum capacity. To increase production, we need to build new factories. That takes time and money." "How much money?" Subin showed him the estimate. Dong-hyun winced. "That's going to make the budget committee very unhappy. Would you like me to prepare a briefing for them?" "Yes. Make it clear that we either spend money now or lose the war later. They can choose." He stood up and stretched. His back was killing him. "What else?" "Good news, actually. Dr. Han from the Science Division wants to talk to you. She says she found something important." Dr. Han Soo-jin was not a military person. She was a physicist who studied quantum communication. Her lab was at the University of Geneva, and she spent most of her time working on theoretical problems that had no practical application until 3 days ago. She met Dong-hyun in a secure conference room. She looked excited, which was unusual for her. Soo-jin was normally very serious. "Commander, thank you for meeting with me. I have something you need to see." She pulled up data on the screen. "I've been analyzing the Valorian communication signals. They use quantum entanglement for faster-than-light communication. Very sophisticated. But here's the interesting part. Their encryption is terrible. Dong Hyun leaned forward. Terrible how? They use a simple rotating cipher. It's like they've never needed good encryption, because no one has ever tried to break their communications. I was able to crack it in about 6 hours. And now, she smiled, now we can listen to everything they say. Everything? Every military communication in human space. Maybe beyond if we can get the right equipment. We can hear their orders, their battle plans, their supply reports, everything. Dong Hyun stared at her. Dr. Han, do you realize what this means? I'm a scientist, Commander. I understand the implications of my work. This could win us the war. That's why I brought it to you instead of publishing a paper. She handed him a data drive. Here's all my research. I suggest you get your intelligence people on this immediately. Within hours, Director Hae-won had a team working on implementing Dr. Han's discovery. They set up listening posts throughout human space. Within a day, they were intercepting Valorian communications. What they heard was concerning. Commander Dong Hyun, you need to hear this, Hae-won said during an emergency briefing. She played a recording. It was in the Valorian language, but translation software had been worked out. Emperor Draxnil himself is taking command. 3 battle fleets, 3,000 ships total. Estimated arrival at human space in 6 weeks. The Emperor has ordered total destruction of all human military forces. No mercy, no negotiation. The recording continued. Dong Hyun listened with growing dread. 3,000 ships, the Emperor himself. Can we win against those numbers? He asked. Hae-won looked grim. I don't know. We have 340 ships total. Even with our tactical advantages, a 10-to-1 disadvantage is severe. We need more time. Can we delay them? Maybe. If we can figure out where they're coming from and harass their supply lines. But Commander, there's something else. She pulled up another file. We're not the only ones listening to Valorian communications. We're picking up encrypted messages from several other species. They're talking about the battle at New Seoul. Some of them sound interested in helping us. Other species? You mean the ones the Valorians conquered? Yes, the Dominion rules through fear. But fear only works if people believe you're invincible. We proved the Valorians can be beaten. Now their subjects are getting ideas. Dong Hyun thought about this. Can we contact these other species? It's risky. The Valorians would see any direct communication. But there might be indirect ways. Traders, neutral parties, back channels. It would take time to set up. Do it. We need every advantage we can get. While the military prepared for the coming battle, President Jin-woo faced a different challenge. The Unified Council was arguing about money. Representative Na Min-ji from the Mars colonies was particularly vocal. Mr. President, the military is requesting a 300% increase in defense spending. That money has to come from somewhere. Do we cut education? Healthcare? Infrastructure? We cut whatever we need to cut to survive, Jin-woo replied. If the Valorians destroy us, none of those things will matter. But 300%? That's excessive. Surely the military can make do with less. General Sohn, sitting beside Jin-woo, spoke up. Representative Na, do you know what happens if we make do with less? We run out of ammunition. Our ships can't be repaired. Soldiers don't get proper training. And then we lose. And losing means every human in the galaxy becomes a slave to the Valorian Empire. Or we all die. Is that what you want? Na looked uncomfortable. Of course not. But there must be a middle ground. There isn't, Jin-woo said firmly. This isn't a normal budget discussion. This is survival. I'm authorizing the military spending increase. If anyone has a problem with that, they can vote to remove me from office. But while I'm president, we're going to do what's necessary to protect humanity. The room was silent. No one called for a vote. On the Valorian flagship traveling through faster-than-light space, Emperor Draxnil stood before a holographic display. It showed the human sector of space. Such a small area, such insignificant creatures, yet they had humiliated his empire. His chief advisor, Lord Kelmar, stood nearby. Your Majesty, the fleets are assembled. We will arrive at the human homeworld in 6 weeks. Good. This time there will be no mistakes. We will destroy their military completely. Then we will discuss terms of their surrender. What if they refuse to surrender? The Valorians expected an easy victory that would restore their pride. Humanity expected it too. The Valorian fleet arrived at New Seoul exactly on schedule. 47 warships dropped out of faster-than-light travel in a perfect formation. It was meant to be intimidating. High Commander Vexthor stood on his bridge and watched the human colony grow larger on the view screen. "Scan for defenses," he ordered. His sensor officer worked quickly. "Commander, I'm reading 20 human vessels in defensive positions around the colony. They appear to be warships, but the class is unknown to our database." 20 ships? Vexthor almost laughed. They sent 20 ships to face the might of the Dominion? This will be over in minutes. He activated the communication channel. "Human vessels, this is your final warning. Surrender now or be destroyed. You cannot win." The response came from Captain Lee. His voice was calm and professional. "Valorian Fleet, this is Captain Lee Jae-hoon of the United Earth Navy. You are in human territory. Turn around and leave or we will fire." Vexthor's face twisted in anger. "You dare threaten us? Fire all weapons. Destroy them." The Valorian fleet opened fire. Dozens of plasma bolts shot across space, bright streams of superheated energy. They were beautiful and deadly. The Valorian crews had seen these weapons tear through enemy ships in seconds. But something unexpected happened. The human ships didn't try to dodge. Instead, they raised their own shields and took the hits. The plasma splashed against the shields, which flickered and dimmed but held. The human ships shook from the impacts but remained intact. On Lee's ship, the bridge crew held on to their stations as the vessel rocked from enemy fire. "Shields at 60%, Lieutenant Park Sang-woo reported. "They hit hard, but we're still operational." Lee nodded. He had studied the intelligence reports from Director Hae-won. The Valorian weapons were powerful but predictable. Their tactics were straightforward. They just shot at you and expected you to die. "Return fire," Lee ordered. "All ships railgun barrage. Target their lead vessels." The human ships responded. But they didn't fire energy weapons. Instead, their railguns activated. These were simple weapons, really. Electromagnetic rails that accelerated chunks of metal to incredible speeds. Humanity had been using them for centuries. They were cheap, reliable, and devastating. Dozens of metal slugs shot across space at a significant fraction of the speed of light. On Vexthor's flagship, alarms suddenly blared. "Commander, incoming projectiles." "Activate shields," Vexthor ordered. "Our energy shields will stop anything they—" The first railgun slugs hit. They passed through the Valorian shields like they weren't even there. The shields were designed to disperse energy, not solid matter. The slugs punched into the Valorian hulls, tearing through armor and creating massive damage. 3 Valorian ships exploded immediately. 4 more were crippled, venting atmosphere and spinning out of control. Vexthor stared in shock. What was that?" "Kinetic weapons, Commander. Solid projectiles. Our shields don't stop them. Why would anyone use kinetic weapons? That's primitive technology. It appears to be effective, sir." Vexthor grabbed his command chair. This wasn't how battles were supposed to go. All ships evasive maneuvers. Spread out. Don't let them target you easily. And return fire. Concentrate on their command ship. The Valorian fleet began to move, but they moved slowly. Their ships were built for straight-line speed, not agility. They were meant to arrive, shoot, and win. Dancing around in combat wasn't something they practiced. The human ships, meanwhile, moved like they had trained for this their whole lives. Because they had. Human military doctrine assumed you would always fight someone bigger and stronger, so you learned to move, to dodge, to use every advantage. Lee watched the tactical display. They're clustering together. They're not used to ships that shoot back. "Sang-woo, prepare missile spread alpha." "Missiles loaded and ready, sir." Fire. Hundreds of missiles launched from the human fleet. They were old-fashioned explosive missiles, guided by simple computers. Nothing fancy, but there were a lot of them, and they came from multiple directions. The Valorian fleet tried to shoot them down. Their point defense systems activated, destroying many missiles, but not all of them. Dozens got through, slamming into Valorian hulls and exploding. More Valorian ships took damage. Their formation broke apart as ships tried to avoid the attacks. They were no longer fighting as a coordinated fleet. They were individual ships trying to survive. High in orbit above the battle, Lieutenant Kwan Yuna led her interceptor squadron. She was young, only 23, and this was her first real combat. She had trained for years, but training was different from actual fighting. "Blue Squadron, stay in formation," she said, trying to keep her voice steady. "We're going after their fighters." The Valorian fleet had launched small attack craft. They were fast and deadly, meant to overwhelm enemy defenses. About 100 of them swarmed toward the human ships. Yuna's squadron only had 12 interceptors. 12 against 100. Not good odds. All right, Blue Squadron, execute defensive pattern Delta. Stay close, watch each other's backs. Defensive pattern Delta was a basic training maneuver. You flew in a tight spiral, each ship covering the others. It was meant for practicing coordination. Yuna had done it 1,000 times in simulations. She didn't know it was revolutionary. The Valorian fighters attacked in straight lines, one after another. They were fast and their weapons were powerful. But they fought as individuals. Each pilot was trying to be a hero to score the most kills. Yuna's squadron spiraled through space, their movements synchronized. When a Valorian fighter attacked one ship, another human interceptor was already in position to shoot back. The human pilots covered each other constantly. They fought as one unit. The Valorians had never seen anything like it. They were used to dogfights where everyone fought for themselves. This coordinated defense confused them. They couldn't get a clear shot. Every time they attacked, they exposed themselves to counterattack. Within minutes, Yuna's squadron had destroyed 20 Valorian fighters. They hadn't lost a single ship. Blue Squadron, keep it up, Yuna called out. She was breathing hard, adrenaline pumping. They don't know how to fight a team.
Use that!
The battle raged for 2 hours. The Valorians had superior numbers and technology. But the humans had something more important: experience with real combat tactics. Humanity had spent centuries fighting itself in various wars and conflicts. They had learned hard lessons about warfare. Lessons the Valorians had never needed to learn. On his flagship, Vexthor watched his fleet falling apart. They had lost 15 ships completely destroyed. Another 12 were too damaged to fight. The humans had lost only 3 ships. This was impossible. They were the Valorian Dominion. They didn't lose battles to primitive species. Commander, we should withdraw and regroup, his second officer said. This isn't working. Vexthor wanted to refuse, wanted to keep fighting until the humans were destroyed. But he wasn't stupid. Staying here would mean losing his entire fleet. All ships retreat, he ordered. The words tasted like poison. Fall back to the rally point. The Valorian fleet turned and activated their faster-than-light drives. Within minutes, they were gone. On Lee's bridge, everyone stared at the view screen in silence. The battle was over. They had won, sir, Sang-woo said quietly. They're really leaving. I can see that. Lee looked at the damage reports. 3 ships lost, 5 more damaged. Not bad considering what they had faced. Send rescue teams to recover survivors from the damaged ships and get repair crews working immediately. What do we tell command? Lee thought about it. Tell them the truth. We engaged a superior enemy force. We held our ground. They retreated. He paused. And someone should probably ask why they left. That seemed strange. Lieutenant Yuna landed her interceptor back on the carrier ship. Her hands were shaking as she powered down the systems. She had just fought in humanity's first space battle against aliens, and somehow she had survived. Her squadron leader, Commander O.G. Wan, met her in the hangar. He was an older pilot with 20 years of experience. Good flying out there, Lieutenant, he said. That spiral maneuver was perfect. Kept the squadron alive, thank you, sir. But I just did standard defensive pattern Delta. Nothing special. Ji-won looked at her strangely. Lieutenant, did you see what happened? Those alien fighters had no idea how to counter coordinated flying. You stumbled onto something important. I did. That pattern you flew, it's going to be studied and copied across the fleet. You might have just changed how we fight space battles. He smiled. Good job. Now go get some rest. We'll need you again if they come back. News of the battle reached Earth within hours. President Jinwoo received the report while meeting with his cabinet. He read it twice to make sure he understood correctly. We won? He asked. General Sohn nodded. Yes, Mr. President. The Valorians attacked with 47 ships. Captain Lee held them off with 20. The enemy retreated after losing about a third of their fleet. How is that possible? According to the battle analysis, their tactics are outdated. They rely on technology and intimidation. They've never fought an enemy that fought back effectively. Our people used standard military doctrine and it worked. Director Hae-won spoke up from her seat. This confirms my analysis. The Valorians have been conquering weak enemies for so. Commander Byun Dong-hyun was eating lunch when the alert came through. He was in charge of coordinating humanity's defense fleet. It was normally a boring job. Ships moved from one system to another, supplies got delivered, training exercises happened on schedule. Nothing exciting ever occurred, until today. He put down his sandwich and read the message from New Busan Station. Aliens, invasion, war. The words seemed unreal. He read it again to make sure he understood correctly. His assistant, Lieutenant Nam Soo-bin, ran into his office. She was breathing hard. "Sir, did you see?" "I saw it," Dong-hyun said. He was already pulling up fleet positions on his screen. "Where are our nearest ships to New Seoul?" "The battle group led by Captain Lee Jae-hoon is 2 days away. They're on patrol near the Meridian asteroid field. Get them to New Seoul immediately, full speed, and I want every available ship in that sector to converge there." "How many can we get?" Soo-bin worked quickly on her tablet. "Maybe 20 ships in time, sir. It won't be enough if the aliens bring their full fleet. 20 will have to do." Dong-hyun opened a communication channel. "Captain Lee, this is Commander Byun. You're being redirected to New Seoul Colony. Hostile alien contact expected. Defensive posture. Protect the civilians." The response came back within minutes. Captain Lee's voice was calm. "Understood, Commander. We're changing course now. What are we dealing with?" "Unknown alien empire. 47 ships. Advanced technology. They're making an example of New Seoul because we refused to surrender. They picked a fight with humanity because we said no." Lee sounded almost amused. "That seems like an overreaction. Just get there and keep our people safe. I'm sending you all available data on the alien ships." "On it, Commander." Dong-hyun closed the channel and stood up. "Soo-bin, I need to brief the Joint Chiefs. Then I need to talk to logistics about ammunition and fuel reserves, and get me the production schedule for new ships." "Sir, are we really going to war?" Dong-hyun looked at her. She was young, maybe 25. She had probably joined the military thinking she would never see combat. Humanity had been at peace for over a century. "I don't know," he said honestly. "But we need to be ready if we are." While Dong-hyun coordinated the military response, Director Haiwan was learning more about the Valorians. Her team had been analyzing their ships, their communications, and their behavior. What they found was fascinating. She called a meeting with her top analysts. They gathered in a secure room deep under Seoul. Screens covered the walls showing data and images of the alien ships. "Tell me what we know," Haiwan said. Dr. Kang Min-seok spoke first. He was a xenopsychology expert, though until today that had been a purely theoretical field. "The Valorians are interesting. They broadcast their arrival. They announce their intentions. They give ultimatums with time limits. This isn't how you fight a war. This is how you perform." "Perform?" Haiwan asked. "They're treating war like theater. They expect their enemies to act a certain way. They show up, make threats, and expect immediate surrender. When we didn't surrender, they didn't know what to do. They actually agreed to wait while we talked to our government." Another analyst, Lee Hyo-jin, pulled up communication intercepts. "We've been listening to their internal communications. They're confused about us. They keep talking about humanity's strange customs and unusual confidence. They think we either have secret superweapons or we're too stupid to understand the danger." "Do they have any evidence of our military capabilities?" Haiwan asked. "No, we've kept most of our fleet movements quiet. They've only seen New Busan Station and a few patrol ships. They have no idea how many ships we actually have." Haiwan smiled. "Good, let's keep it that way. What about their technology?" Dr. Kang brought up schematics. "Their ships use advanced energy shields and plasma weapons. Very powerful. But we've noticed something interesting. Their shields are designed to stop energy weapons. They might not work as well against kinetic weapons." "Kinetic? You mean old-fashioned bullets and missiles?" "Essentially, yes. Our railguns and mass drivers should pass right through their shields. They've probably never encountered anyone still using kinetic weapons." Haiwan thought about that. Humanity had kept kinetic weapons because they were reliable and cheap. Energy weapons required a lot of power. Kinetic weapons just needed ammunition. It was a practical choice. Now it might be a life-saving one. "Prepare a full report for the military. I want them to know how to fight these ships." She stood up. "Good work, everyone. We might actually have a chance here." On the Valorian flagship, High Commander Vexthor was having a very bad day. He had been sent to bring a primitive species into the Dominion. It should have been simple. It was always simple. You showed up with a huge fleet, made threats, and the locals surrendered. Then you took their resources and moved on. But these humans were not following the script. His second officer, Sub-Commander Ralmus, stood before him with a report. Commander, the humans have rejected our ultimatum. They claim this sector as their own territory. Vexthor's face darkened. He was a Valorian warrior from a proud bloodline. His species had conquered hundreds of worlds. They had built an empire that stretched across the galaxy. No one said no to the Dominion. They reject us? They dare? Yes, Commander. And they invited us to establish diplomatic relations. Vexthor stood up from his command chair. He was tall, with blue-gray skin and sharp features. His eyes glowed with anger. Diplomatic relations? As if they are our equals? He paced the bridge. This is insulting. We gave them a chance to surrender peacefully. Now we will show them the price of defiance. What are your orders, Commander? Vexthor looked at the star map. We attack their colony, New Sol. It is lightly populated and poorly defended. We will destroy it completely. Then the other human worlds will understand their mistake. Should we offer them another chance to surrender first? No. Vexthor's voice was cold. They had their chance. Now they will learn through pain. Ready the fleet. We attack in 3 days. As the Valorian fleet prepared for battle, life on Earth continued mostly as normal. People went to work. Children went to school. The news reported the alien contact, but most people didn't seem worried. Humanity had faced bigger problems before. Wars, plagues, climate disasters. They had survived everything. Aliens seemed like just another challenge. President Jin Wu held a press conference. Reporters asked him questions about the Valorian threat. Mr. President, are we going to war? We hope not, Jin Wu said calmly. We've offered to talk with the Valorians. If they choose violence instead, we'll defend ourselves. But war is always a last resort. What if we can't win? We'll cross that bridge when we come to it. Right now, our military is preparing defensive measures. Our citizens are safe. Life continues. Aren't you worried? Jin Wu smiled slightly. I'm always worried. That's my job. But I have faith in humanity. We're good at solving problems. This is just another problem. The press conference ended. Jin Wu returned to his office where his advisors were waiting. The smile disappeared from his face. How bad is it really? He asked. His military advisor, General Son Wu-jin, brought up projections. If they bring their full fleet against us, we'll struggle. But if we can fight them in smaller engagements, we have a chance. Our weapons work differently than theirs. That gives us an advantage. What about casualties? If they attack New Sol, we'll lose people. We're evacuating as many as we can, but not everyone will leave in time. Some people don't believe the threat is real. Others have nowhere else to go. Jin Wu rubbed his temples. Do everything you can to protect them. And make sure our fleet knows they're fighting for human lives, not pride or territory. That's what matters. Far away at New Sol, Captain Lee Jae-hoon arrived with his battle group. The colony was in chaos. Transport ships were loading civilians as fast as possible. But there were 50,000 people on New Sol. Moving them all would take weeks. They only had days. Lee looked at the colony on his view screen. It was built into a large asteroid with domes and tunnels carved out of rock. Mining equipment dotted the surface. It wasn't beautiful, but it was home to thousands of people. His tactical officer, Lieutenant Park Sang-woo, spoke up. Sir, we've positioned our ships in a defensive formation around the colony. But if they bring 47 ships against our 20, we're going to have problems. How many civilians have we evacuated? About 12,000 so far. The rest are either refusing to leave or waiting for transport. Lee made a decision. Tell the civilians they have 2 more days to evacuate. After that, anyone still here stays until the fight is over. We can't risk the transport ships if the Valorians arrive. Yes, sir. Lee studied the tactical display. 20 ships against 47. Not good odds. But he had trained for situations like this. Every human military officer had. Not against aliens, of course. But the principles were the same. Use the terrain. Fight smart. Protect what matters. Sang-woo, start mapping the asteroid field near the colony. I want to know every large rock, every hiding spot, every potential advantage we can use. Planning an ambush, sir? Planning not to die, Lee corrected. If the Valorians want a fair fight, they're going to be disappointed. We're going to use every dirty trick we know. As preparations continued, both sides moved toward conflict. The massive ships appeared without warning above New Busan Station. They were enormous, each one larger than the entire human outpost. Their hulls gleamed with strange metals that seemed to shift colors in the starlight. The station's sensors went crazy with alerts. Something big had arrived, and it wanted everyone to know. Admiral Kang Tae-sung was drinking coffee when the emergency call came through. He was a tall man with gray hair and tired eyes. He had been in the military for 30 years. He had seen a lot of things, but he had never seen alien ships before. Nobody had. He walked slowly to the command center. His officers were standing around the main screen staring at the ships. They looked worried. Tae-sung took another sip of his coffee and looked at the display. "How many?" he asked. 47 warships, sir," said Captain Yoon Da-yoon. She was younger than him, with sharp eyes and a quick mind. "They're just sitting there. They haven't fired or moved since they arrived." "Have they said anything?" "They're broadcasting now, sir." "Audio only." Tae-sung nodded. "Put it through." The voice that came through the speakers was deep and proud. It spoke perfect English, which was strange. "Attention, primitive inhabitants of this station. I am High Commander Vexthor of the Valorian Dominion. Your species has been discovered in territory belonging to the Eternal Empire. You will surrender immediately. You will acknowledge the Emperor as your supreme ruler. You will provide tribute and soldiers to serve the Dominion. Refuse and your worlds will burn. You have 1 hour to respond." The message ended. The command center was silent. Everyone looked at Tae-sung. He took another sip of coffee. "That's it?" he asked. Da-yoon checked her console. "That's the whole message, sir." "It's repeating on a loop now." Tae-sung scratched his chin. "They want an answer in 1 hour?" "Yes, sir. That's not enough time. I need to send this up to Earth Command. They need to send it to the Unified Council. The Council needs to debate it. Then it comes back down. That takes at least 2 days." Da-yoon smiled a little. "Should I tell them that, sir?" "Yes, send a response. Tell them we received their message. Tell them we need 48 hours to process their request through proper channels. Be polite about it." One of the junior officers spoke up. "Sir, should we go to battle stations? Should we evacuate civilians?" Tae-sung thought about it. "Not yet. Let's see what they say first. But get the defense grid online, just in case." The response was sent. For 10 minutes, nothing happened. Then the alien voice came back. It sounded confused. "You request more time? This is not negotiation. This is surrender demand. You have no choice." Tae-sung picked up the microphone himself. "Listen, Commander Vex whatever. I'm just a station admiral. I don't have authority to surrender humanity. That's not how our system works. You need to give us time to talk to our government. 48 hours. Then we'll have an answer for you." There was a long pause. Tae-sung could imagine the alien commander on his ship, trying to understand what was happening. Finally, the voice came back. "Explain your system. We have a democratic government. Decisions are made by representatives from all our worlds. They have to meet and vote. It takes time. If you want an official answer, you need to wait for the process." Another long pause. "This is acceptable. You have 48 hours. Do not attempt to flee or arm yourselves. We will be watching." The communication ended. Da-yoon looked at Tae-sung with wide eyes. "Sir, did you just make an alien invasion wait for bureaucracy?" "I just bought us 2 days to figure out what we're dealing with," Tae-sung said. He sat down at his station and started typing a report. "Get me everything our sensors can tell us about those ships. Send it all to Earth. And someone get me more coffee. This is going to be a long week." News of the alien arrival spread across human space within hours. Earth's Unified Council called an emergency session. Representatives from all 47 colony worlds gathered in Geneva, appearing in person or through hologram. President Park Jin-woo opened the meeting. He was a short man with glasses and a calm voice. He had been elected because he was good at managing crises. But this was a different kind of crisis. "We've all seen the message," he said. "We have 46 hours left to give them an answer. Director Choi, what does intelligence tell us about these Valorians?" Director Choi Hae-won stood up. She was a serious woman who rarely smiled. She had spent her career studying potential threats to humanity. She had never expected the threat to come from space. "Our analysis is preliminary," she said, "but we've learned a lot in the past few hours. The Valorian Dominion appears to be a genuine interstellar empire. Based on their ship positions and communication patterns, we estimate they control thousands of worlds. Their technology is advanced, particularly in energy weapons and faster-than-light travel." A representative from Mars spoke up. "So we can't fight them?" "I didn't say that," Hae-won replied. "Their ships are powerful, but their tactics seem theatrical. They announced their arrival. They gave us an ultimatum. They're waiting for our response. This suggests they're used to enemies who surrender easily. They expect fear and submission. Are you saying they're bluffing? Asked another representative. No. I'm saying they've never had to really fight. Look at how they behave. They treat war like a ceremony. They probably haven't faced serious resistance in centuries, maybe longer. President Jin Woo leaned forward. What do you recommend? Haewon pulled up a chart. We need more information. We should stall them as long as possible, while we study their technology and psychology. Meanwhile, we quietly prepare our defenses. If we do end up fighting, we should be ready. And if we can't win, someone asked. Then we negotiate, Jin Woo said. But we negotiate from a position of strength, not fear. These Valorians need to understand that humanity doesn't scare easily. He looked around the room. Let's vote. Do we surrender or do we see what happens? The vote was almost unanimous. Humanity would not surrender. But they wouldn't declare war either. They would simply continue as normal and see what the Valorians did next. A message was sent to New Busan Station. Taesung read it and laughed. What does it say? Taeyun asked. The council has decided to reject the Valorian ultimatum. We are instructed to inform the Valorians that humanity claims this sector of space as sovereign territory. We will defend it if necessary. And we invite them to establish diplomatic relations if they want to talk like civilized beings. They're not going to like that, sir. Probably not, Taesung agreed. He opened a channel to the Valorian flagship. Commander Vexthor, this is Admiral Taesung. We have our answer. Humanity rejects your demand for surrender. This is our space. If you want to talk, we can talk. If you want to fight, we'll fight. Your choice. The response came quickly this time. The alien voice was angry now. You dare refuse the Dominion? You are primitives. You have no idea what power you face. We will make an example of you. Your worlds will learn to fear the Valorian Empire. Okay, Taesung said. Good luck with that. He closed the channel and turned to his crew. Battle stations. Get the civilians to the intersections. Power up all weapons. And someone tell Earth we're probably going to war. Yun was already working. Sir, the Valorian ships are moving. They're heading out, system. Where are they going? Looks like New Seoul, the mining colony. Taesung pulled up a map. New Seoul was 3 days away at normal speeds. It had 50,000 people living there. It was also lightly defended. Send a warning to New Seoul. Tell them to evacuate if possible, and get me Commander Byun at Fleet Operations. We need ships there now. As the station prepared for war, Taesung looked at the stars. Humanity had reached for them with hope and curiosity. Now something was reaching back with threats and demands. But humans had faced threats before. They had survived wars and disasters and challenges that seemed impossible. This would just be one more problem to solve. The aliens would learn soon enough. Humanity didn't stay unfazed because they were fearless. They stayed unfazed because they were stubborn. And being stubborn had gotten them this far.